All right, we're back. It's another season of the I'm sorry, not the Erskine Music Show. It's the Way Forward. Come on, man. It's Saturday. Let's get Jason on here. It's
Hey,
two of us. We're teaming up. What's going on, man?
well, I am alive and well in Litchfield, and it's a nice brisk, I don't know, like 50 degrees and raining. Um, we have our trunk or treat thing tonight where we get to minister to the public.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, God willing, at least the rain will let up, or the mist will let up. But it's Illinois. It's always raining. It's always raining in Illinois.
Yeah. Well,
uh,
this is what is it? Season 2, season 3 for us?
I think it's three.
Season 3, man. Here we
Three.
go.
That's it. It's awesome.
So yeah, we're doing it. We're coming back and again, news, commentary, cultural talk. We want to do an episode today just to get you guys caught up with where we're at and kind of show you guys a
Yeah.
little bit of at least the outline of what we're looking at this next season. But we thank you guys for tuning in. Saturday, we don't know. We got a different audience than what I have throughout the week. And so my show is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then we got our thing going on Saturday. So a lot of neat possibilities that are out there and some technological things that I'll update you guys on because we're making improvements every season. Every season's getting stronger. But first, let's get an update from my man, Jason. Let us know what's up with you, man.
Man, it has been let's see, when was the last time we did the show? We were in, geez, was it the spring? I think maybe.
it was maybe the first week of summer, kind of
Okay, I think
getting
yeah, somewhere around there. Well,
getting
as
toward
we
the end
were
of that. So
as we were wrapping up, my family and I got to do a sabbatical. The church was very gracious enough to allow us to have a 6 week sabbatical. Because as you know, I'm working on my doctorate of ministry education.
Well, let the people know this man
Education.
is working on his doctorate. What's up? What's up?
Yeah.
What y'all know
So
about what y'all know about a PhD?
I got the opportunity to get away and rest a little bit. I got to spend some time with you, which was outstanding, in Nashville, and you guys hosted me, and I got to spend some time with Kelly Ellie and Justin and Jasmine and do life in Tennessee. I got to go to North Carolina, see my aunt and uncle out there, which I don't know if guys can see it, but I'm sporting my whole Starbucks mug.
There you
For
go.
And I also got to spend some time just thinking through a lot of writing and reading that I'm doing. Uh, my emphasis on educational ministry here is essentially how do you mentor children with learning disabilities, emotional trauma? How do you lead, guide, and direct them, engaging their mind, their heart, and their will, right, through biblical wisdom? So I've been doing a lot of trying to understand how the Bible uses wisdom to instruct the mind and the heart and the will, so that these children have the ability to make wise decisions, to grow in tangible skills, and actually live a fruitful life. And
Yep.
of course, we engage the gospel every day with these guys, because that's the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Yeah.
And
So you're
so,
practically one of the world's foremost experts on this subject. We have a man who is a scholar extraordinaire in the area. And
uh,
guess what? The more he's learned, the more he's
yeah,
recognized.
not even scratching the surface. Not even scratch. There are so many good people I'm reading out there, doing some good. As a matter of fact, I want to give a shout out to my advisor, Kevin Jones,
All right, Kevin Jones. Whoop whoop.
uh, out of Cedarville, University of Cedarville in Ohio. He's an adjunct professor at Southern as well. I'll tell you what, if you want to get to know somebody who knows education and knows children and knows mentoring, knows race, knows all the stuff that we like to talk about, that dude is legit.
Well,
So you want to give a shout
isn't he
out.
coming on the show this season?
I am, and this man is sought after, and he is hard to peg down because he has got 1,000 things on his plate. But I'm thinking I'm going to go visit him here in November, because oddly enough, my daughter's got a college visit, if you can believe that, bro. Naomi
Woo!
Naomi's doing
It's
college.
college time, baby.
Naomi's doing college visits now. So she's a senior, and we have scheduled a visit for Cedarville, and so I'm going to be visit with him. I'm going to ask him, beg him, plead with him to come onto the show and share some knowledge. He's a
Well,
good dude.
let me
He's a really good
segue that
dude.
by simply saying I think that it's highly possible. We don't want to give false information to the audience that's out there that's watching. By the way, comment section is turned on today. We both appreciate. I'm used to doing my my own show, but we both appreciate the repartee, the going back and forth. I'll try to do a better job of reading the comments this year and like actually understanding what they're saying before I'm responding to them. But I know you guys are welcome to make comments. We enjoy that. We appreciate that. That's kind of what drives this show and what makes it so great is that, we can get our own conversations going and then we get side conversations going on from our audience. But I wanted to say, I venture to say that this season, because of the technology and some of the improvements that have been made on the StreamYard platform, as well as some of the pre-recorded here, I would venture to say that it's highly possible that we could get Dr. Kevin Jones to come on and to share just a little bit, even a segment of what it is that we might be doing. He doesn't need to stay long, 5,
Yeah,
10 minutes, 15 minutes if
yeah,
he's got it. And we can take it from there because we are both long-winded and we have a lot to say. So,
yeah.
um,
No, he's good. He's been extremely helpful to me, just pegging down what I'm trying to accomplish. We're actually one of the things I love about my degree program is it's not just pie in the sky and going to sit in the library. It's a project based program, so I'm actually
mhm.
working a lot of the ideas out right now.
Yeah,
Tending the Vine right now is up and going, and we work with children who've got a lot of these learning disabilities or emotional trauma or things like that, and it is blowing and going, and we love it. We've reorganized a little bit. The kids are enjoying themselves. They hear the gospel every day. They're learning scripture. They're being cared for. They're being taught math, reading,
right on.
writing. Um, they're just a whole person is kind of being engaged, and our volunteers are great. They're starting to buy in a little bit of the vision, and we're just kind of up and running with these kids, and we're seeing a lot of good things. We've got to try to help their behavior so that they're in a good position emotionally to take on the responsibility of learning. And a lot of these kids come very overwhelmed, and so we have to really spend a lot of time just helping them
Yeah,
get to that place where they can take that responsibility, and we're seeing it. I mean, it's God's grace is very good. We don't have a lot of discipline issues. We just spend a lot of time mentoring, a lot of time. Hey, are you being wise right now? Or are we? Here's a great example. Of course, kids can get ornery and upset and get careless.
no,
Get
really?
careless with their words, and we say things like, "Hey, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." What kind of words are you using right now? And we know that the Bible says that from the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks.
Mm.
So that now
I
tells
feel like
us
I
we got
had
to
that
get there.
discussion yesterday.
Yeah, right.
We may
Uh,
have it again here in a little bit.
that's right. So we're trying to engage the heart first and foremost, and then redirect those words into gospel words. And then as we pray for them, the Lord will use His word to change their heart. And so it's good. It's good. It's a lot of work. It's demanding, but God's grace has been sufficient. And so that's kind of what we've been doing here at First Baptist Church is really engaging the community in this area. And the community's recognized we've done a good job, that we're really committed to it. Yeah, I mean, just people have dropped donations off to help keep us going, and didn't
That's
see that
awesome.
coming. Yeah, it
Now,
is cool. It's
yeah,
really
and
cool.
and since the last time that we did a show, I think you've become the man of the year. Or your program has been nationally recognized.
Uh,
Or give us some information about that.
uh, the program. So okay, so uh,
I'm gonna just
I
throw you
was
out there like that
yeah, I was
because
I
you
was
love it when
given
the spotlight is on you.
yeah. So I was given the Citizen of the Year award for
The
Litchfield.
citizen of the year. Come
Yeah.
on.
So it's not it's a very much a partnership, and I had to make this clear to the journalist and to the when we did the acceptance speech that first and foremost, this is a family effort. All the plumbers are involved and Tending the Vine, and all the
Hmm.
family, even Elias, is engaged in working to make this happen. Second of all, the church is heavily involved. So to say citizen of the year is a little bit narrow focus, because it
It's
really takes,
awkward.
yeah, it takes a lot. It takes everybody to make it happen,
In
and I just
fact,
happen to
Citizen of
be.
the Year, I've got an icon for that.
That's weird.
So it really is the church's ministry, and our family's ministry, and everybody in between who's making that happen.
Yeah.
And I think that the community is recognizing that it's good people who are trying to serve the Lord as best they can, engaging these kids. So yeah, it's good, and we can't complain one bit.
I'm
We love
super
the
excited.
kids.
Hey, you
Yeah,
guys got some space for the Anavitartes to come up there this year?
we have space for anybody to come up.
Calling
We
one, calling all. Hey, there's some folks who are
That's
watching right
right.
now. Comment section is turned on. You guys say hello this morning. It helps the algorithm of the show. If there's more
Yeah,
people who are commenting, then YouTube says, hey, this is of interest. And so it puts it out there. And so just if nothing else, just say hi, good morning, what's up? See you guys. Tell us where you're reporting from. Yeah, let us get some audience feedback. But yeah, audience feedback and also audience participation. So if you want to go over
yeah,
there and help Litchfield, Illinois, I think
that's
they've got
right.
some available slots for volunteers.
That's right. And what we're looking for, honestly, biblical mentoring needs to come from Bible-minded, Christ-exalting, God-glorifying Christians.
Hmm.
So we need God's church to rise up. And I would even say one of the visions I'm going to cast for Dr. Jones, since he's got a lot of young, um, eager, missionary-minded students over there at Cedarville, is what would it look like for a teacher who just graduated from college to go on mission in Litchfield, Illinois, live here and be missional to the public school system, and also missional to Tending the Vine. You want to talk about doing mission work? Come to Illinois and live in a rural town, and you'll see missions. So
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say that and you coin that because someone was asking me last week about where we go to church. And I said, well, we're missionaries. And they said, oh, yeah, where? I was like, we live in Nashville. Oh, so what does that look
yeah,
like?
that's
So
right.
we plant a church, and, you know, I know that the doors are open for all, like, come ye sinner and be
Yeah,
healed. But we really are at this stage of development. I'm looking at contacting friends who are in other parts of the country and telling them, hey, if you're thinking about moving to Nashville or not thinking about moving to Nashville, here's an opportunity we have in church
yeah,
planting. Here's an opportunity we have to be missionally engaging our communities here in Nashville, especially East Nashville, where we're at. And
yeah,
this is an important task. And so I'm not just saying, hey, if you have any spare time or if you get around to it or come see this great program or great event. No, it's pretty much if you want to live as a missionary and be on the ground and get punched in the face all the time, um, for the glory of Jesus, like come do this. And
yeah.
so we're approaching it from that standpoint as well.
It's I love that you say that, because I think that is the ministry model going forward.
Hmm.
It really should have been the ministry model all along, but uh, in this day and age, the way the church is going to focus, I don't see the life of the megachurch necessarily sustaining itself. What I see the gospel being transformative is in house
Hmm.
churches like yourself, and people becoming missionary minded, like like those students who graduate Cedarville and decide to come and live in rural town Illinois,
Uh-huh.
on Interstate 55, willing to engage the folks of this community who are living in as much darkness as those who are in Nashville. Now, I will tell you, Litchfield's not nearly as sexy as Nashville is. It's uh, too.
well, well,
Yeah.
you guys do have a couple of nice pizza places, and
We have the Ariston. Yeah, we have Route 66, but
yeah, yeah,
no, it's
historic
not
Route
nearly
66
as.
out there.
Yeah, nobody's flocking to Litchfield to make a life for themselves, in the music industry or anything else. Um,
I could
but
probably see that.
but the needs, poverty is at its heart is poverty. Drug addiction at its heart is drug addiction. Dynamic, dysfunctional families happen in Nashville as well, in Litchfield, and learning disabilities and emotional trauma, that they're everywhere. So at the heart of the ministry of what you're doing in Nashville, that's why I think you fit in just fine here in Litchfield, because we're both addressing the same issues.
Yeah.
We're both addressing the same people. It's just in a different context. And so I'm going to argue and say that if I spend 30 years here, 40 years in Litchfield, and I die here, or even I die tomorrow, my ministry will stand up just as well in heaven as anybody else's,
Yeah.
because I'm doing what God's called me to do, regardless of where.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. There's no JV Christians that are out there. And
no,
so I
no,
think sometimes we put ourselves on JV and we leave
yeah,
ourselves on the bench, but I cannot find in scripture where, I was having a conversation
no.
with a young man. I think he was 17 years old the other day. We were talking about the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And I said, so, you know, something to the effect of, do you consider yourself to be a missionary? And he said, Erskine, we're all missionaries. Like we've all been given the Great Commission. And I said, young man, you have answered that well. I tried to trick you, but
uh,
well said, sir.
and if that's what we're putting into the younger church, the younger generation, I'm happy, because
Yes.
you know, trying to get the church to understand that um, we need to all be living that missionary lifestyle, that missionary ground. I get to share the gospel every day. I
Hmm.
share the gospel with children. I just shared the gospel with a 40-something man, homeless and just trying to figure it all out. And God brings all kinds of people in your life when you're open to doing it. And I just try to encourage the church, hey, look, man, get out there and start sharing with these folks, and let them see that God's got bigger plans than what we're seeing right now.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Let's transition a little bit. You were talking a little bit about your program that you are doing there with kids, and we've seen that program before, and hopefully very soon here will be again a part of that program. But let's talk a little bit about special needs. You're doing a PhD in that area, and there's at least a Instagram that I sent you of Show Baraka, former Christian hip hop artist turned hip hop artist turned poet, author, speaker, father. And this comes from his vantage point as a father. I should have got that picture and put it up here. I wonder if I can do that real quick.
yes,
But
and I'm just for clarification, I'm doing a doctor of educational ministry,
oh,
so
okay. Okay.
mine's a project based.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you. But yeah, the image in the photo there, let me see if I can get that on here some kind of way. Well, as we'll talk about that, but
Yeah.
anyway, it was a photo of his son that was just kind of running through church, and you know, clearly there was a different sense of what his son's perception was of the atmosphere and the context, but it became normalized because even though his son was kind of running around the church, not in some wild charismatic way, but running around the church just as the overflow of just kind of his expression, being a special needs young man. It was just normalized there because everybody was used to it and they had welcomed that and they had made a place
Mhm.
and they had made provision. Whereas maybe there would be some places that would be a little uncomfortable with having a young African American man running around in the back of the church building. Uh, I was encouraged by that, and I sent that to you, and you were I think also encouraged. Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about kind of the perception of that, and how maybe some of the changes in direction that we're going in churches. You talked about some positive things that you've seen,
Yeah.
direction that church is going in understanding special needs and the ability to help broadly.
Well, what I think I sent you a text back saying there's all kinds of cool happening inside of this. Um, when you talk about special needs kind of being normalized inside the church, um, uh-oh,
What was oh?
oh, I have a, um, can you still see me?
I
Because
can see you.
something just went nutty on mine.
I
There
can
we
see you
go.
going. Oh.
I have a new Mac, so I don't know how this thing works. So I'm figuring it out, and it just switched screens on me and said, "Hey, we're gonna do something else." So I thought it cut me off like it normally does sometimes.
No, man,
Anyways,
you're using good technology finally.
I'm on a learning curve. Ethan helps me out a lot with this thing.
Okay. All
So,
right.
um,
He moving on up over there. You've made some technology changes. I've got
yeah,
a better camera this year. About to get a
yeah.
better microphone. Here we go. Let's do
All
this.
right. So what is interesting about this whole thing is that special needs can be very intimidating for the church because the families and the children or the folks come with sometimes very complicated needs, right? And you look at it, and the first thing you feel is overwhelmed because you just don't know where to start or what to do or how to act or how to approach. And then all of a sudden you start making comparisons to your own life and you realize I don't have children like this or I don't have family members like this. So this is very foreign and it just kind of gets awkward real fast. So when you're looking at a young man like that running around in church and the church has become to normalize it, what you're seeing is the church has began to embrace this idea that hey, this is life for people, and if their life is that's life for them, it's life for us. That's really cool because that doesn't happen inside of churches. My impression was this young man was autistic, and so my understanding of working with children with autism is sometimes music can be very stimulating, and the whole church experience can be very overstimulating, and that's one of the issues with autism is
Mm,
they get stimulated, overwhelmingly stimulated, and they have to kind of go to a place where it's quiet and safe and secure. And here, this young man is seems to be responding to the church environment in a very neat way, and you're like, wow, that's really cool. That he feels that he that comfortable to do that with some of the needs he has.
yeah.
You have his father not ashamed. Shame is a big deal with families with
Yes.
special needs.
Yes.
All the moment they walk into a store or a church or a home, all eyes are on them really quickly. And when you have to walk in a place where all eyes are on you, it seems like every decision you make is in the spotlight or everything that happens. Just think about the mom who's got the wayward kid, who's 3 or 4 years old, starting to flip out in Walmart, and everybody's looking at mom, and everyone's making these assessments of this mother. Well, special needs families feels that a lot all the time. So all eyes are on them. Everyone's just kind of waiting for their kid to implode or do something crazy. And so they feel this constant pressure. And here you have a dad who vocally says, I don't feel ashamed at all. My kid is worshiping the Lord, and I'm here worshiping the Lord, and the church is worshiping the Lord. And so the church has become a very safe place for his family. And that that is unfortunately not the norm. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think the church is intentionally. I want to give the church a benefit of the doubt and say they're not intentionally being tools about this. I just think the overwhelming needs that come, they just don't know what to do. But this church has figured it out, and this family's figured it out,
Yeah.
and so there's some neat things there.
There's some and we probably could have put these in the show note, but there's some documentaries, some short exposés on Stephen Furtick's church and how
Yeah,
they have kind of put a wall up of separation between parents with special needs coming in at least the main church service and ability to minister to them because they want to keep a certain image and they want to keep a certain
yeah.
decorum. And whether it be Stephen Furtick's church or whether it be sort of these high bar liturgical reform churches, people expressing themselves in just, these sort of expressions, sometimes because of the decorum that churches want to set, that's not always a welcome thing. And I think maybe rethinking some of that and rethinking this whole kind of church atmosphere that we sometimes set. I know, what's interesting since we talk about race on this show and ethnicity is that probably people being emotional, people being exuberant within the context of a church service is not abnormal. But I would probably venture to say that in a white context, white church context, that is a little bit disjarring for people, a little bit more disjarring for people. Is that, did I overstate that or?
I would say in the white Baptist context, yeah, there's some white Pentecostals that get after it.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's,
We've seen some worship fails.
yeah, that's exactly right. Uh, yeah, we've seen some worship fails, and uh, yeah, I'd say that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
I mean, because if I'm wrong, come on now, strike me
No,
down. Strike me down.
you've led worship in our church, and I wouldn't say our church gets too crazy into it. Yeah, now one thing I'll say about First Baptist is they have been very receptive to special needs families, and that sometimes we had a young man who would come in, and his disability was so severe that the only thing he could make was kind of grunting sounds,
Mm-hmm.
and so he would grunt and do his thing, and I mean, we just kind of took that as his expression of worship, or we had no idea what he was thinking, but it didn't bother us
Yeah.
that much. And so I was very pleased. Now that's not the case in some other churches, and so um, it's 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 a it's what disturbs me about the walls being put up is that is actually more common than I like it to be because of the image or the style that they're used to inside of
Yeah.
worship. And the last thing I don't like churches that take the idea that we need to segregate these kids to another room or another place or these over there and out of the mainstream of the church. Providing a safe place or providing a room is one thing, but intentionally segregating them out so that they don't disrupt service or whatever, that to me does
That's
not.
a worship fail in its in and
Yeah,
of
that's a
itself.
worship fail. That doesn't fit inside the philosophy of church. And so one of the things I had a family I worked with in Louisville, and one of the issues was the drums were a big issue to one of their boys. Just the pounding of the drums. So if he were to come to church, he needed a space in the back to kind of pace. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't necessarily separate himself out, but you just provide a space where he could walk, and he worked it out. Um, that was something that was that is okay, that kind of stuff. But yeah, the churches I've been a part of, I can't think of one who's been overly emotionally engaged or running around or carrying on like I've seen some of my Pentecostal friends.
Yeah.
So it definitely would be out of the ordinary to see somebody like Shabaka's boy. That would be out of the ordinary, even in my church. If he
Yeah.
up and down the aisle, I'd be really curious to see what the church would do.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you might get a letter or so. Just have we thought this out? What's really going on there? But no, we got some folks who are saying hello. We got a lot of folks from Texas who are tuning in this morning.
I didn't even.
So Brian is from Texas. Meg is from Texas. Scott is from Texas. He says good morning to us.
Yeah. Hey.
And again, thank you guys for making some comments there because that does bump the algorithm up. It seems like people are interested in the show when you guys make a comment. So even if you're watching for a little bit and you're just like, hey, yo, go. I have literally one friend who will get on there and just type random letters. Like, I don't put that up in the show notes, but it helps the algorithm to kind of like go forward. Yeah. But no, this I want to read something here and get your take on it. All right, I'm going to read something from Joel Osteen's church. Oh boy, here we go. But no, this might not be oh boy. Check this out. He's got, or at least they've got, a section where you can contact their church if there's interest in special needs ministry for their Sunday gatherings. And tell me what you think about this. Children with special needs are matched with well-trained buddy while their parents attend our gathering. Buddies accompany the children in age-appropriate classroom, provided individualized help, encouragement, guidance through lessons, activities, and play. And they also have a playful and well-equipped special needs classroom dedicated to specific needs of children who are not able to attend their age level classrooms. So it's kind of a three-tiered approach. They
Yeah.
partner them with somebody who, I guess, quote unquote, is a specialist. But then they also say, well, what does that particular child need? And if it's beyond what it is, that we're not just going to generalize that. We're going to say, hey, there's some specific needs beyond that. Let's try to provide that as
Mhm.
well.
What I like about that is, one, they're taking an intentional approach to engage these families. I mean, that right there is just, aside from a lot of Joel Osteen's misgivings.
We're actually saying
um,
something good.
yeah, what's nice to hear is that they're taking an intentional approach. They're thinking this through. It's not a cookie cutter, and it's not just, hey, let's get them out of here and ministered to, but hey, let's think about the mentorship side of it. Let's get them with a buddy. Let's get them someone that they can be they can feel safe around. The parents can feel safe around. Let's not just categorize them into one spot, but let's see if they can what they can handle and what they can't handle. I think that's a great start. That's a great place to be engaged family, because just that right there shows that at least they care and they're being thoughtful. You know,
Hmm.
that's good, because that doesn't happen a lot.
All right.
Uh,
Well, there have
where I'd
you
like
people out there that are just like you and Jason just both said something positive about Joel Osteen. You guys can't possibly be evangelicals anymore.
I've I have ripped Joel Olstein a new one several times on comments he has said theologically about heaven, hell, and salvation. So I've given that dude plenty. All right. But it wouldn't be it
Go back and
wouldn't be
see all former comments before this moment.
that's right. It wouldn't be fair though to not look at some of the things that they're doing, and at least if we're going to be critical on both sides of it, right? And when it comes to special needs, they've got resources. They got tons of resources. They've obviously have thought through and got training, and they're trying to address this issue, and they're making these families feel welcome and supported.
Yeah.
You want to reach special needs families, welcome and supported are the two biggest cultural things that have to happen inside your body. Is they need to know that no matter how complicated or messy their life is, it's okay for them to be there.
Well,
And
I got
then
yeah.
they need to be supported, like, hey, we've got people who are ready to stand by and care, really love your children. And so that you can also be a part of the service. Now, the one thing I would ask that church to consider is, how do we get them more engaged into the church family and service itself? Because one of the things I don't like about that church is it's such a mega church that where would these kids have a possibility of serving and being part of life? And maybe they have that. Maybe they have that. I don't know. You know, like, I would love for if we had more folks with disabilities to find places everywhere from greeting to ushering to something where they can
Sure.
be a visible part of the church and the service of the church.
Um here's let me I have a hot take on this, because if you're wondering out there where I stand on this whole issue, Jason and I are pretty partnered together in terms of the gospel and our understanding of the gospel and our ecclesiology related to the church. The 6th through 12th grade sidekick ministry. Special needs middle schoolers and high schoolers participate in traditional age level ministries while their parents attend gatherings. Well trained, they
Mhm.
say, quote unquote, sidekicks accompany teens and offer personalized support and gentle guidance. We also offer a class for teens with special needs where the well trained leaders and sidekicks provide developmentally appropriate curriculum, games, fun, music, friendship in a welcoming and safe environment. You can go to their website there to check that out. And then they put this there at the end of that. The easiest way for the whole family to stay connected is to sign up for our Lakeside Life newsletter.
Yeah.
And so some intentionality there. And so here's my hot take on this whole thing. Like, I was talking with somebody the other day and I was saying, I really am more and more each day convinced of the power, the veracity, the necessity, the urgency of the gospel and the need to get the gospel message out and its present impact in my life. However, what I is a measure of confusion for me, and at least a challenge for me, is when I see Mormons who are very specialized in what it is that they do. They're highly involved in family ministry. They're highly involved in mission. And that religious scheme that they have going is as false as the day is long.
Yeah.
For Joel Osteen and their ministry, do not think that it is a gospel ministry and that it represents true gospel,
Yeah.
Bible believing, faithful ministry. And yet their intentionality to want to bring families close to them and to want to engender themselves and endear themselves to the community that they live in is notable. It's commendable. I
Yeah.
applaud their effort in the
Yeah.
sense that why aren't churches who actually preach the real gospel conducting themselves with the same level of energy, intentionality, effort, focus, missional thinking as some of these places that are false prophets and false teachers? That's my hot take for today.
Yeah, I have ideas and thoughts that
This is a show of ideas.
well, so I'm a pastor, and pastors
You're a
have
pastor.
pastors
Yep.
have things they've got to deal with. And I was talking to a good friend of mine about this very idea, that it seems like there are two visions for the church, um, maybe in America, but in the context that I've served, aside from my seminary experience, because that's very different. I'm in seminary, you're around a bunch of like-minded people who are as eager, and so you can't count that because that's not the normal. Like, you got to get out of the bubble,
Right.
because that's a very special bubble, and you'll never have that again, likely. If you do, then you count your blessings, because
That's
uh,
rare.
that's rare. So there seems to be two visions for the church, and sometimes those a lot of times those visions will chide each other. If you have a vision from the pulpit that says, hey, this is a wartime mentality that we're living in right now, meaning that all hands on deck, all resources, all of life is geared around it joyfully advancing the kingdom of God by making much of Jesus in the church, community, and home. And everything we do, whether we are at work or we are at play or whatever we're doing, we are doing to advance this kingdom, which means you've got to be engaged about God's work, right? So Christianity is not just about fulfilling the American dream or the American ethos, which is the White House, the picket fence, the 2.5 kids, and the car and the vacations, and we had church and we're good moral people, and we just kind of lived 50, 60 years, 70 years doing that. No, this is about God's kingdom advancing in our time, calling us at this time to do the same work that the disciples were doing back 2,000 years ago. And that is engaging this world in the gospel, because we know Jesus is going to return, and he's going to restore all things, and that he's going to rightfully rule over the heavens and the earth, and we're going to be with him. But until then, we are on mission. We are at it. Okay. That's a vision that can be preached from the pulpit. But then you have the American, and I can only say American vision because that's the context I'm growing up in, or developing in, is this. No, we do church on Sundays. We our lethargy is okay. And we'll give money to things, and we'll show up on Sundays most of the time, half the time. But we just kind of want to work our jobs and do our thing. That's two separate visions that is taking place, and those two chide each other. If you have a pastor who's either preaching the first vision, or the church who's buying into it, those two will chide each other, and they'll be like, "Okay, we're not going anywhere." But what I'm finding, and Erskine, you probably have a better context than I do because you travel all over the place, is a lot of the churches have kind of settled for their pastor to just collect a paycheck and kind of move us in, and
Well,
so you're not going to have a special needs. You're not
let
going to think
me
like that. Yeah.
let me be the first to jump off the boat and grab my life jacket and let you go down with the ship. Now that you've made a generalized statement about pastors, I have no idea. I can honestly say I have no idea what goes on in the minds of people because we're not in a traditional model. Like, and we are we are extremely focused, the small group of us that there are, on making sure that we are praying for the Church of Jesus Christ, praying for churches where people gather in buildings, praying around the world for the Church of Jesus Christ and for pastors. I'd made a comment on my show, the Erskine Music Show, um, maybe last week, that one of the things that has happened with this great resignation and people, getting new jobs, leaving their jobs, finding new careers, finding new avenues, not taking the jobs that were formerly there before, and just kind of upheaval in the job market. I'd made the statement that I really wish that happens to the church as well. Like, I hope that the culture spills into the church, because the church sometimes has a unique ability to underemploy people that work for the church. And so I was making those statements in general, just simply saying that I don't understand a culture where we create a mechanism, but we want that mechanism to exist only so far as it just exists, but is not. And listen to my heart behind what it is that I'm saying. Only so far as it's not competitive with the culture, or it is engaging the culture, or it is counterculture. And so if I can get back on this ship now and we'll both go down with the ship, if I can say that there's something that I've seen that concerns me, it's that pastors get tasked to do jobs that are not biblically what their assignment is in scripture. The church building and church office, church staff operates in a way that is subpar to the rest of the world, the working world. And churches are content to exist without engaging their community or being counterculture or being, I'm not saying that we need to be sloppy, but at what point do we push back against our culture and
That
say, okay, we're here.
yeah,
You're going to have to deal with this one way or another.
that existing part, that's probably what I'm driving at.
Yeah.
That we're okay to just exist. And I just don't think that's the point of what the church is meant to be. You're not just meant to exist.
Yeah.
You're meant to advance. You're meant to go forward.
It,
The kingdom of light is meant to conquer the kingdom of darkness. And we don't do that with swords and guns and armies. We do that with the gospel of Jesus Christ, even laying our lives down if necessary for it. So I don't. I guess it's hard for me to take in the idea of just existing.
yeah. I was at a banquet the other day, and I was just saying, up from the stage, that my struggle is that somewhere along the way, and I think it was very early on in ministry, when I started seeing believers that were going on mission trips and started being invited to go on mission trips, not just invited to go on mission trips, but invited to go to mission trips and also preaching the gospel. I remember, very early on in my Christian life, going and preaching in Rio de Janeiro and walking through the favelas up in Brazil and preaching the gospel and pouring my heart out through a translator. And something just got broken for this American existence model of ministry that has never really corrected itself. Like, I've tried to be a good soldier, and I try to, like, if I go to a church, I try to do what I think they would expect me to do so that I can share the ministry that God has given me. But at the same time, I just haven't, I don't get it. I don't see how we could not be more aggressive. And as I was talking to a sports team this last week, I told those young men, it was a baseball team, a group of guys, they had just finished practice. And I said, one of the things that so attracts me to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes and sports ministry is athletes are aggressive by
Yeah.
nature, No coach tells their team, okay, just go out there and exist, try to survive in this game, and it'll be okay. No, you try to take the fight to the other team. You try to stay on top. You try to
Yeah.
be aggressive. You try to be innovative. And there's more intensity among athletes than I find that there is among people who are believers. Now, it's not the same struggle like you were talking about,
Yeah. Yeah.
prayer, and it's, the means of grace that God has given us. But at the same time, where is the freaking aggressiveness of believers to go out and make a difference in this world?
Yeah, yeah. That existing is just surviving, and that's not the church. The church is not just surviving. We're to thrive, moving forward, even in the midst of suffering. And I don't, churches who choose to just exist are not going to invite the broken into their sanctuaries. It's too complicated. It's too messy. They're going to be the Steve Ferricks of the world, and I'm not a big fan of that young man. And I'm not a fan of his ministry. Because that's not what I'm seeing boots on the ground here in Litchfield. And I don't
I'm trying to find
pretend.
Shobaraka's thing, so I'm not just sitting
Yeah,
here.
I
Oh,
got
look,
you.
he's just
No,
checking his email, talking about
but
how the church should be aggressive. He's checking his
if the
his
if the
Instagram.
if the church is just simply going to exist, then you're going to see the complacencies that we're seeing in the church that we're struggling with. And there are Bible believing, Christ exalting, God glorifying Christians out there who don't want to see it this way. I know they're, because I talk to them, and they're
Hmm.
people like you and me who are out there trying to make a difference. And so it's not like I'm generalizing the entire church. What I'm just saying is what I'm seeing inside of our culture, the reason why you're not seeing the special needs families reached, right? Part of the consequence of being a church that just exists, that's kind of become comfortable being complacent, is you're not going to welcome those families into your congregation very well. They come with a
Yeah.
lot of priority, they come with a lot of intention, and they come with a lot of needs for you to be intentional about reaching them. And it's not because they're coming to you because they are just needy by nature. No, you got to think through how you're going to minister to this family, like you would think through any family, right? And you've got to be intentional. And I'm sorry, but if you're just going to exist, that's not going to work. And I think that's why you're probably seeing that Shabaka, um,
Shobaraka, by the way.
Shobaraka, that church is maybe more the exception than it is the rule. You know, I
Hmm.
don't know.
Very
That,
challenging subject here today.
yeah,
Didn't know that we were going to talk as much about this as we were. I would have had the Shobaraka thing up, and I do
yeah.
apologize. I got in last night, and you know, this is only a B plus.
Hey, look, I know what you do behind the scenes, and I'm sorry, you're multitasking 6,000 things at one time. So
There's a few things going on in the
yeah,
world around me, but hey, focus, focus, focus.
focus.
Kingdom growth. Now, I just wanted us to get back and get an episode going so that we can get the audience aware of the fact this is the best promotion for a show that we can give, is to actually
Yeah,
do a show.
yeah,
I love the advanced metrics and different things like that, where we tell people and tell people and then tell them again. But at the same time, us doing a show and then us registering something on YouTube will
yeah.
let people know that, hey, these guys are coming back at it. We're going to come in your face. We're not going to be rude about it, but at the same time, we're going to get into some really big topics. You had mentioned a couple of those things that are coming down the pike on news stories. What are some things that we're going to be talking about in the next few weeks?
Well, I definitely think we need to be paying attention to the abortion laws that are hitting the Supreme Court. Abortion affects the church and race, by the way, since there's two big ideas that we like to talk about a lot. The Supreme Court has expedited the SB 8 case out of Texas, um, and uh, and that's interesting. There's a case out of Mississippi, Dobbs, I think, versus Jackson's Women's Health facility. And what's important to know about these cases is the SBA case isn't going to challenge necessarily the idea of abortion being constitutional, unconstitutional. It's going to challenge if the state has the right to pass off to the public a way of enforcing pro-life policies versus implementing themselves. So that's it's more of a constitutional thing than it is about abortion itself.
Yeah.
More of a administration. But the case out of Mississippi, that's the kind of the one that has the potential to overturn Roe v. Wade. And of course, John Roberts is our uh, chameleon type justice. We don't know which way he's gonna swing. But we do have a court that might be inclined to really take a look at abortion and maybe make some really good changes. Now, of course, the current administration is looking to try to deal with that, and so I think the church has got to be paying attention to that. That's coming up. I also think that a really interesting thing I've been kind of watching is now that we've got sports back in full swing, and everybody's packing the stadiums. Um, I'm just kind of curious of where are we still having the discussions that we were having last year? Are we still talking about those things? Are we, I know we have a little tag on, end racism at the end of the end zone.
You may put it in the show notes here.
But
So we get it. Yeah, hey folks, it's the end racism. Watch this show.
right,
We're gonna end racism by
I'm just
watching the Way
curious,
Forward show.
how was the church? We had some hot top. It was a hot year last year and the year before, and now
It's not going to be as hot this year because we've mostly ended racism, by the way.
and so
Because the sign is on the field, the
yeah.
people can see it. They're like, "Oh, I was going to be racist, but now I'm not racist anymore."
I just wonder, what does the church think about how do we think through just the inconsistency of the culture? Just why, just those are thoughts that were coming to my mind down the line. I'm a big sports fan. You're a big sports fan.
Yes.
It's
Go Braves.
Go
Astros.
Yeah, yeah. I just cannot bring myself to follow the Astros after the whole cheating scandal.
Oh, they're cheaters.
I thought the organization was really didn't handle that well. But anywho, I know I've got some Texas fans out there, so I'd rather be the Rangers anyways. Anywho, those are some things coming down the line.
So we're invariably going to have to get in because, there's the intersection between church, culture, sports. It all kind of weaves together in one way, shape, form, or fashion. We're going to have to get into vaccination and that whole discussion at some point. You and I were diametrically opposed to one another. We were fighting each other. We were
hey, it's not just you. I mean, Sonny was busting my chops about it. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but I'm not vaccinated.
You anti-vaxxers?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm about to.
You just lumping us all into conspiracy theorists who don't think through things, and
yeah. Oh man, I'm put you in a headlock in this show.
Yeah,
yeah. People will come because they'll think that there's a fire, so we definitely got to come see the show burn down.
Yeah,
but
no,
I don't know. Maybe in the last month or so, I do think that there's a really good reason why people would not want to be, and some really good reasons why people would not want to be vaccinated, and should be able to present those with some clarity, like the young man did, Isaacs from the Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
I think there are some compelling reasons too. We're vaccinated. The kids are partially vaccinated at this point, mostly vaccinated. And so we see the reasons. Like if you were to do a pro and con sheet, I would say, okay, here are the pros for vaccination. Here are the cons against vaccination. I think that I'm maybe checking maybe one or two more things on that long list of things in the reason for vaccination. But hey, I get it. I've got a long list of things against vaccination as well. And so that should be an interesting discussion as we go forward, because that invariably impacts like the NBA, like Kyrie Irving. He's not playing, not wanting to get vaccinated, vaccination mandate. He's kind of become a hero of those who come and say, "Hey, where's our freedom at?"
Yeah. That's where I would probably sit. I encourage, and we can talk about this more in a different episode. But I was having a good conversation with my brother, who's he's diabetic, and he works in a hospital. And he talked about getting the vaccine. I was like, "That's great, man." Just taking that precaution, but he was very adamant with me, saying, I just think If you allow people to decide for themselves, they'll figure it out. And we had a really good discussion, though I'm not vaccinated. He's just like, hey, look, mandating this thing is kind of crazy. So I think there's some lines in that discussion to be had.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Mm-hmm.
some ways I think the church needs to respond to this that could be helpful to the culture. Um, Ultimately, putting our trust and hope into Jesus Christ and His sovereignty and the Lord's sovereignty.
Yeah.
Also recognizing that God's mercy. I don't have any problems with vaccines. My kids are vaccinated against most diseases out there. I don't think there's maybe one that we weren't really fond of, but otherwise, um, even to be able to travel overseas, I think they're up to date except for the COVID one. So, how do we have this conversation with the culture without immediately flying into one political camp or going off the deep end and becoming mean spirited?
Yeah.
Good discussion. I think it's a good discussion to have.
Well, I've had more vaccinations than I even thought there were vaccinations.
Sorry.
Because to do foster care like we are, there's certain vaccinations that
Yeah,
exist in that
yeah,
world specifically as it relates to caring for medically fragile young children
yeah,
and premature
yep.
children. And so we got those vaccinations recently as well. And yeah, there's just more vaccines out there than I even thought
Hey,
existed.
and you got this Mersic pill coming up in 3 to 6 months. That's like a Tamiflu.
Yeah.
There's some really
So
interesting conversations about that one too, because what I find fascinating about that pill is it actually goes into the DNA of the virus, like changes the code. And I'm like, holy smokes, that's on the one hand, that's amazing that we created something that can change the DNA of a virus to where it
yeah.
kills itself, right? That's that's out of this world crazy. On the
Well,
other hand, I'm thinking, well, if it could change the DNA of a virus, will it mess with my DNA at all? Like, will it screw with things there?
yeah, and
So
there'll
I
be
think that's a great conversation to have. You can be in awe on one hand of how awesome it is, and the other hand, like, hey, like if it's changing DNA, does it mess with like fertility? Does it mess with
oh yeah, there's all sorts of ethical issues that we're gonna get into on this show.
yeah. So there you
And
go.
oh look, we got some comments here.
Yeah. Is
Daily theology.
that John?
I don't know who that is.
I think daily theology is John.
That's, oh, that's your boy?
My boy. I mean, I dig John, but I think you introduced me to him.
Oh, is that my boy John?
Yeah. It's John.
Oh,
I think it's John.
sorry.
Yeah.
I can't see the icons from here.
Yeah.
But
Uh no, he's up. I think he's in Ohio now, right? Is that right?
yeah. So yeah, always great to have some interaction there
That's
from
right.
the Reisner.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, good stuff, good stuff. So yeah, we started talking about some of those topics. Woo!
Yeah.
Viewership just the viewership just went up 100-fold. Hey, we got some good comments. Yes, yes, we know that
Yeah.
you. Check this out. Scott's jumping in. He's saying, "Hey, I would probably get it if it
If it
kept you
kept you
from
from
getting
getting it or
it or
spreading it.
spreading it." But the CDC says the vaccines does not keep you from getting it, spreading it. So why get it? Why make people get it?
All right. Sounds like we got a show developing right
We
there.
got a show.
We have got
There's
to
a
talk about
storm
the
cloud of brewing.
vaccinations. Yep. How's the
Thank you
church?
so much for that comment. All of you
Yeah.
guys who are making comments, because those are the kind of things that we want to talk about on this show. And that's the reason why we do this show, not because it's extremely convenient for us, because it is not.
Yeah.
But we do this show because it allows us a platform to be able to share these things. And
Yeah.
when we disagree, have a model that we can present before people saying, okay, because of the nature of our relationship, because our love for one another, we
Yeah.
can disagree without being disagreeable, and we can disagree and actually listen to one another to the extent that I would say, hey, Jason, I've never thought about that before. That's a good argument. Let me hear more about that. And vice
Yeah.
versa, in a way that our culture just does not do. Like like we're in cancel culture mode.
Yeah.
And if somebody doesn't agree with us or our perspective, bang, you're gone. And
Yeah.
anybody who likes you is gone. And
Yeah.
that's just not the way forward. That is not the
No.
way forward.
No. You and I have had a really good discussion on the vaccine thing, right in my office, as a matter of fact. We
Mm-hmm.
sat and had where we fundamentally disagreed with each other.
Fundamentally disagreed.
Yeah. And you sit there and be like, I'm looking at Erskine knowing like he's not buying at all what I'm selling at all. Like, all right.
But
All right.
hey,
Well,
you made some very good points. I will say that. And you know, my family is vaccinated. However, even in our discussions, Kelly and I have had discussions with other friends who are not vaccinated and some of their rationale for it. And, let's just take the fringe parts of the discussion out. Like there's
yeah.
fringe on both sides of that. There are those who
Yeah.
have, you know, surreptitious motives, profit motives, and the like on one end or the other. And then there's anti-vaxxers and then some serious fringe, not like anti-vaxxers for like good cause, but like
Yeah.
conspiracy theory, aliens, like cloning
Yeah.
sheep, like all these different things. Let's take that out of the discussion and let's actually have the discussion of what
Yeah.
we're talking about here. And it actually gets to be a good discussion because I think we will be able to find a way forward. On my show, and I'll stop with this. I said that the greatest conspiracy of all of this is that Satan loves this. He loves this. There might be more people who are eternally impacted because of the tenor of the discussion than people who actually die of the virus.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Because he's getting people to hate one another as a result of the position that they take, or hate people in the church, or hate, and it's just like whether one takes the vaccine or not, that's not an eternal matter.
Nope.
When someone dies and not receives Jesus Christ, that's an eternal matter, and Satan is having a field day as a result of this discussion and the inability, I would say the inability of people to have this discussion in a thoughtful way and then still be able to move forward with loving your neighbor in mind and also serving the Lord in mind. So
that's good.
We set the ground. All right, let's get out of here. We got stuff to do today. We can't just be sitting around. Thank you, guys.
That was a great word.
I'll let you have the floor.
I look forward.
Hey, pray for the show. Pray for the show.
I will.
You're a pastor. I'm almost a pastor.
I do look forward to that show on vaccinations. I look forward to all of our shows because I really believe that we can help the church talk through these issues. You don't have to be the brightest or the most theological or the most whatever, but you have to be two believers who love each other enough to sit down and listen to each other and talk. And I think that's something we can offer the church. So
yeah,
let me pray for us. Father, thank you so much for Erskine and his ministry. I thank you for those who are watching, and just ask that you'd please bless our time together. May it be fruitful, may it be wise, and we be discerning. And may you help us, Lord, to joyfully advance your kingdom by making much of Jesus in the church community home and on the way forward. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.